Hey Adele,
Hey, Katie, how are you?
I'm good and welcome to everybody. We've got a pretty good turnout today. Welcome, everybody. We're going to give everybody a couple of minutes to filter in before we start. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves in the comments, hey Catherine, um, I'm going to we'll kind of like give a little bio on ourselves. But yeah, if you guys want to introduce yourself in the comments and tell us what your podcast is about, I love hearing, or even where you're from. I love seeing like where people are tuning in from and what kind of podcast you guys are making. So while we wait for everybody to filter in, I'll just kind of give you guys like a little history on this series and before we get into what we're going to talk about today. Oh, Maddie from Kansas. I am in Austin. Adele is in New York, New Jersey, Canada. I love that. That's the thing that I think
London.
is so cool about podcasting is that I have made friends and contacts from all over the world, from all different countries that I would have never been on my radar if we weren't both creators and podcasters. I love that. We've got some UK. We've got a lot of Canada.
Very
Tommy in
cool.
Ireland. Tommy's been to several of these before, so I love seeing repeat visitors. Oh, from Fort Worth. Hey, I was there not too long ago. Nice. So, A-Class Insider is an event that ACAST hosts for our podcasters to kind of just go a little bit deeper into topics to help you grow your show. A couple of months ago, we did one just kind of top level on different social media platforms you can be using to grow your show. And you guys really said that you wanted one about Instagram. So that's what we're doing today. We're doing a deeper dive into Instagram. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to touch on every single thing, but if you guys want to discuss anything that we didn't touch on, just respond to your email for this webinar and it goes straight to my inbox, and I'd love to hear what you guys want next. So Adele, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hey everyone. I'm a growth manager at ACAST, so I help all our podcasters grow, small shows, big shows. I create these custom strategies that cover everything from marketing, SEO, website optimization to help everyone grow. And my background is in marketing and branding.
I love that. I love that your job is all about helping podcasts grow, and that's exactly what this series is for. I'm Katie. I am the community manager here at ACAST. But on top of that, I also am an independent podcaster. I have a podcast that's been going on for about 5 years now, and we have a really, really awesome Instagram follower. So I'm excited to share like the insides of that with you guys. Oh, Lauren knows my show. Hi, Lauren. Thank you. All right. So before we get in, I just want to kind of clear the air. People might be like, why Instagram? Because it kind of can seem counterintuitive. Instagram is about visuals and videos, while podcasting is audio. But I think the name of the game here and why Instagram is important is because of the engagement rate that it receives. So when I say engagement rate, what that means is compared to Facebook and Twitter, where you may have more followers, your followers on Instagram are the platform that are more likely to like, share, comment, and actually give you feedback on your show. And that is just hearing straight from your followers what they want to hear and how you can like help them engage is so valuable to you as creators and podcasters. I included a graph here. There's a website called socialinsider.co. Each year, they do a benchmark study on different social media platforms on engagement rate. And the turquoise in there from 2 years in a row is Instagram. See how it's just like you might have, I think the average engagement rate on Facebook is like 0.1%, where the average engagement rate on Instagram is like 7%. That's huge. So you really, really should be utilizing it as a way to communicate with your followers. Real quick, I saw a few people in the chat over here asking if this will be recorded. Yes, you will get a recording of this afterwards. I also do want to say that we are going to pause to take questions as we go. So don't feel like you need to throw your questions out there as soon as they come to your mind. We are going to pause. Oh, and I want to say hi to Amanda. Thanks for joining. All right. So first, we're going to talk about setting up your bio. We're going to go over the best practices of making sure that you are visible to your community and they know how to find you on Instagram. So take it away, Adele.
All right. So setting up your bio for success. Think of your bio as the easiest way to make a great first impression on a potential new follower, potential new listener, ideally. We're going to go over a checklist of what to include, some examples of successful bios, and then we'll go over LinkedIn bios, which is very important to get your CTA across, your call to action. So first of all, very important to include, 1, who you are. 2, what your business does. When I say business, I mean podcast, media company, blog, whatever you're doing. 3, who your target audience is. And 4, what sets you apart. This is a bonus. What sets you apart from similar accounts in your niche? So we have 2 examples here, Angry Therapist and Los Angeles Pod. They're 2 podcasts within Acast, and they both have implemented these best practices very beautifully. So let's go over some of these. First of all, let's bust a myth. Using keywords, hashtags in your bio is not going to make you more searchable. What it can do, though, is think of it as like a style hack. So just like you have line breaks, emojis, having a hashtag just makes it easier to skim, easier to get your point across, but it will not make you more searchable.
You say that, you mean if someone uses a hashtag in their bio, no one's necessarily going to find that. Even if they specifically search for their hashtag, the hashtags and bios don't show up in searches, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
The one thing that can make you more searchable, and that's the last point, but I'll bring it up now just because you said this, is what John Kim is doing from Angry Therapist, which is including your occupation in your name. That makes you more searchable. But having a hashtag in your bio won't change anything. It'll just make it easier to read and maybe cuter, and just like think of it as like a design hack. Next up, and this is the most important, your CTA, it's your call to action. What is the one action that you want people to take before they leave your account? And again, make it very hard for them to leave before they take that action. Easy one, download the latest episode. Something that we see a lot, linking to individual episodes in your post does not work. So you won't get a hyperlink. People are going to see a long link. They won't be able to click on it. They'll move on. They can't even copy paste it.
Yeah.
So use your link in bio. We'll go over this in a second, but use your bio to promote that CTA, download the latest episode. So if you see, for example, what Los Angeles Pod is doing, here are our latest episodes. So determine what your CTA is, highlight it. Use emojis, use arrow emojis, use line breaks to make it very visible. Next up, speaking of emojis, design. Use all these elements to make it very skimmable. Think of it, all of our attention spans have, become shorter over the years, but especially now, we're on Instagram, someone lands on your profile, you have 5 seconds. This is your elevator pitch. They read your bio. Make it really easy for them to understand what your mission is. And for that, use emojis. Use, how we're saying, hashtags, line breaks, etc. And then finally, I touched on this a little bit, but John Kim, he uses in his name, he also uses licensed therapist, which is his occupation. So now when someone searches John Kim therapist, they're more likely to land on his account rather than all the other John Kims. So think of Instagram will use the username and the name in the search queries. So use that to your advantage, if applicable.
I once spoke to a podcaster who abbreviated their name in their Instagram handle. And he was like, no one can find me. So make it as similar to your actual name of your podcast as physically possible.
All right, so link in bio. So we talked about CTAs, your call to action. Something that we see a lot is people using their URL. They just like swap it out every week. New episode comes out, new merch drops. It's very hard to track. There's a lot of room for human error, and it's just simply not scalable if you're, up to a lot, which we hope you are. So there are very easy and free tools you can use to make this easy. Basically, using a link in bio tool will make it a one-stop shop. So Linktree is one, Linkpod is another. We have links to these later on in the presentation. But what it looks like is this. Your link in bio becomes one URL with all your CTAs. You can have download my latest episode, check out my latest blog post, here's my new merch, sign up for my newsletter. I wouldn't recommend having more than, I would say maybe 6 or 7, because you don't want to overwhelm your follower, but you can have it all there, and it's a lot easier to keep track of. Another thing that this provides you is more data. So you can start tracking where people are going. So they're going from your Instagram to maybe it's your latest episode tab, or maybe they're all going to your merch, or maybe they're all signing up for your newsletter through your Instagram. This is great data to have and to keep track of over time. Finally, I think these 3 do a great job of making their link in bio profiles just consistent with their overall branding. And, Angry Therapist link in bio, it looks great. The podcast is the first CTA. It's engaging. I love the colors. So it's also a way to kind of extend your branding. So we'll go over some of these platforms later, but just so you know, a lot of these start out with free default plans. So you can get started really quickly. And then, paying a premium, you can brand it with your own colors and logos and fonts. But yeah, something to think about and explore.
Gaining traction, then look at your budget and say, is this something that I could take to the next step once my show grows? That's awesome. I love the link in bio feature so much, especially since Instagram does just give you that one link. This is such a smart way to utilize it. Before we move on to the next topic, if anybody has any questions about setting up your bio, we can take a couple of questions now. Otherwise, we will get on to the next one. The link in bio tool is Linktree. That is one of them. There are, Later has one. Who was the other one that you mentioned?
Linkpod does one. The Later one is great too, because Later also does post scheduling. They're really an Instagram tool, so they do a lot, including link in bio. But yeah, I think Linktree might be the most popular. I see Linktree a lot.
Podfollow is actually, Tolly Podfollow is something different, but we will talk about Podfollow a little bit later. Social.link. There's a lot of really good ones out there. I use Planoly. I just went with them because they're from Austin and I like shopping local, but there are a lot of really good ones out there. So I would just encourage you to look at some of your favorite podcasters and see what they're using and see what you like the aesthetic of. Should I have an I help statement in your bio to describe what your business does? I don't really know it. It's definitely important to utilize there in your bio what you do and what your specialty is, kind of like Angry Therapist also has licensed therapist. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you should definitely tell them what you do, what your business does for sure.
And also, you have, it's 150 characters, so you can't go into your whole mission statement, but can you condense it into one sentence? Then absolutely yes.
Very smart. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to talk today about content pillars. So basically what content pillars are a strategy to make sure that it takes the guesswork out of what to post. And it's a way to make your platform, to make your profile look really brand recognizable and to really kind of hone in on what works for your audience and what doesn't work for your audience and what they respond to. If you are a seasoned Instagrammer with, a 12% engagement rate already, this might just be a refresher course to you. But if you are new or really struggling to figure out how to hone in on your brand, I hope this can really help you. So first, we're going to talk about content pillars in your feed. I've taken some screenshots of an Acast podcast called Don't Tell My Mother, and I think their feed is so recognizable, and they do these content pillars really well. So I've picked 3 content pillars that I think just about any podcast can do: your show art, your guest or cross promotions, and behind the scenes content. So here you can see they do episodic artwork, and it's very recognizable. If you're spending a lot of time already making episodic artwork, you should be sharing it on Instagram for sure. Or if you don't necessarily make episodic artwork, you can make posts that at least reflect that episode. Guest and cross promotion. This is pretty self-explanatory. If you have a guest on, you want to share that. You want to tag them in your post in hopes that and then ask them, not in hopes, just be like, hey, I'm going to share you on my page. Can you share it with your followers as well? So that you're really promoting these awesome guests that you're having on, and, talk them up in those posts. I have an author who's a bestseller, or I have a content creator with millions of followers. Make sure that you are talking up the guests that you've worked so hard to get on your show and sharing it in your feed. And then behind the scenes. Look, if your followers have gone from your podcast and found you at a different platform, they want to get to know you better. They can hear your content on your podcast. They want to know what the behind the scenes looks like. An example I can think of, me and my co-host have known each other since middle school. One time I did a carousel post just to be like, it's friendship day or something like that. Shared a picture of us from when we were in middle school, shared a picture of us from college, and shared a picture of us together on my wedding day. People were blowing it up with comments, just saying, oh, we love getting to see you guys behind the scenes. We love your friendship, and it really reflects in your show. Does that necessarily promote the content we're creating on the podcast? No. But does it give our followers like a reason to, like a way to resonate with us as creators? Yes. And that is I think that's really, really important, and something that's going to have them tuning in again and again. And then content pillars for stories. I almost think your stories are more important than your feed. I mean, your feed is almost like your resume, whereas your stories are where you can show, it's almost more like your cover letter. You can show your personality, and you can get feedback really, really well from your followers. A hack. If you use the in-app features like polls or trivia questions, or ask me a question, or even just like slide to say how much you agree with this. Anytime you use the in-app features like that, you're going to be prioritized in Instagram's algorithm, and you're going to be shown to your followers more often. So share your art, share your show art, your episodic art, and then use the Instagram now allows anybody to use the link feature. It used to just be 10,000 followers. Anybody can use it now. Somebody mentioned Podfollow earlier. Whenever you share that link, use the Podfollow link. What that's going to do is it'll bring your Apple users straight to Apple to listen, and it'll bring your Droid listeners straight to Spotify to listen. And I think that's so smart. If you go and look at your insights in your Acast dashboard, and you look at where your listeners are coming from, chances are really good the top 2 are Apple and Spotify. So I think that's a no-brainer. You can also get follower feedback here. We have an Actor Despairs, another Acast podcast over here, and they just, simple question: what do you guys want to see on the show? That is a way, because as podcasters, we don't always get that immediate feedback as maybe bloggers or YouTubers do. This is a way for them to just tell you, I want to hear XYZ. And then you can share their comments, share the feedback they've given you in your stories if you want, and make them realize, oh, what I'm saying, I'm being heard. And it's just a really great way to connect with your followers. And then audiograms. Audiograms are a still image with audio from your podcast playing over it. We use Headliner, and it's just a smart way to share the most engaging 15 to 30 seconds or whatever of your podcast. I think it's really smart to maybe you're telling a story and then it cuts off right before the ending or the punchline. And so they have to then go. And then you share the link. Go check the episode out. Let us know what you think. I think it's a really cool hack and a way to see what your listeners want to hear and what they like. So does anybody have any questions about content pillars or content in general for your stories or your feed? Any trends? Let's see. I think that question from Samantha was from earlier. Trends about bio statements. I don't think there's any huge trends right now. Okay, that was a previous question. Okay, cool. Has anyone instituted Reels for pods? I had to cut out a slide I made about Reels because otherwise this webinar could easily be like 2 hours long. I know a podcaster who did a reel every day for a month and got 10,000 followers. And she has a very, very niche podcast. I think it's about Japanese history. And she was able to reach so many people doing that. So I think, yeah, use Reels if they are more work. They take longer to create. Let's see. What tools do you recommend for filming podcast? I like audiograms. Me and my host we use Zencastr to record our episodes, and you can just turn on the video to like capture videos. Then you have to probably go in and edit them. I just use the editing software that came on my computer to make it the size for whichever way you're wanting to share it. Thoughts on hashtags? Adele, what are your thoughts on hashtags?
Thoughts on hashtags, first of all, don't have 20 hashtags. Second, avoid those like big ones with millions of posts. Your content will get lost so fast. So if you want to use hashtags, I think of hashtags kind of like as SEO. It's not like your strategy for growth. It's something that you can do on the side, and it's kind of like a best practice, and it's kind of like Instagram, like hygiene, but focus on the more niche hashtags in your community, the ones that people are looking for, and yeah, stay away from the big ones.
Creator and see what hashtags they're using. Or if you have a podcast, like for instance, I have a podcast about women in history. So people are always saying, oh, we found you because we love the History Chicks, which is like the old school women in history podcast. So I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I go and see what hashtags they're using because we have a lot of the same followers. So it'd probably be a lot of people searching the same things. But I agree. If you use a hashtag that's like the number one trending thing, it's going to get lost. Stay relevant to your content. Adele is now going to tell us about community management. So go ahead and take it away.
So if you want to grow on Instagram, which I assume everyone does because we're all here today, this is the number one thing that you want to be looking into. Engaging with your community, nurturing your current community and expanding it. Instagram is just such a powerful tool for that. And the bar to entry is very low. So first of all, there's a little time commitment, but this can be 5 minutes a week, 5 minutes a day, an hour a day. Pick a time where you can be consistent. And basically it's the consistency that's going to make it work rather than how much time you're spending. But pick a time every week where you are engaging with your community and devote that time just for that. How do you engage with your community? There are many ways. So ways that we find effective. In stories, like Katie was mentioning earlier, all those native features, polls, ask them a question, continue the conversation via DM, spread the love. respond to your comments, especially if it's a question, like all your comments. And then I think over the course of time, start making a list in your head of your super fans. Who is always the first to like, always the first to comment? Those people, you want to give them a bit more love. Go to their account, like what they're doing, keep up with what's going on with them. And this can be overwhelming and hard to scale. So pick 10 people and maybe you rotate it. Maybe it's 10 people every month and you engage with their content too. This will also make it so that the algorithm shows your content higher on their feed. So it's a win-win. Next up, this is a tactic I love, which you can do 5 minutes a day or a week, an hour a day. This can be scaled into something very big. Start with 10 new followers every week and send them a DM that you literally copy paste on your desktop, welcoming them to your community, saying, hey, so happy to have you. This is what we're about. Check out our latest episode. That's it. Copy paste it. 10 new people. And start a conversation there. And it's these little one-on-one interactions. Again, one, you are building a relationship with your community. Again, on the other hand, again, for your algorithm, this makes your content rank higher. So another win-win. Carve out space in your feed for user-generated content, especially if you're trying to build a community. So this can be spontaneous. People are tagging you in posts, tagging you in stories, you reshare in your stories or on your feed. It can also be, if you want a little bit more control, have prompts. So every week, every month, every 3 months, ask them a question. Let's say you have a book podcast. Literally one story. What are you reading? Send me a picture. You can then take it to the next step. Put all that. Did you lose me for a second? I'm back.
I got nervous.
No, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. So take it to the next level. Share it in your stories. Add it to a highlights reel. You can start a hashtag. We have a podcast, Fat Mascara, that does a great job of this. They have a segment in their podcast called Raise a Wand, where they raise a mascara wand to their favorite beauty products. They started doing this last year. They would have their followers submit their Raise a Wand. What's the product they're loving this week? And they would share it in their stories. This can become a highlights reel. This became a hashtag. It's just a great way to feature your community. And it's very easy content for you because they're creating it. And then finally, we talked about nurturing your current audience. So welcoming them with a DM, featuring their content, speaking with them via your stories. Instagram is a great tool to expand your community. So make a list of 10 like-minded creators. This can be other podcasters, bloggers, media companies who have an overlap in audiences, but where there is a little difference, you want to get in front of their audience and bring them over to yours. And then this is very important, start an authentic dialogue. So you don't want to come across as too salesy or pushy, but start reaching out. Maybe you start by liking their content, commenting on their content, and then reach out. Maybe work on a collaboration. Maybe you do a joint giveaway. Maybe you do an Instagram live together. Maybe eventually you have them on your show because you established a relationship. So I have a good example of this on your right. This was a post that, so this is Forever 35. So they, again, going with the books, they asked people what book they were reading that month or that week. Look at that conversation happening in comments. It is the easiest post. It is literally a repurposed tweet, and you see that engagement happen.
That is so smart, and it's also such a smart way to see what they're going to tune into. Like if you do an episode about if 15 of your followers say that they recently read one book and you do an episode about that, they're going to be sharing it with their friends too that also read the book in their book club or whatever. So I think that's using their, the audience created content like that is so smart.
And then finally, I know I just told you to carve out some time to engage with your community. I'm going to ask you to carve a little bit more time out for metrics because this is essential. So with all marketing, all social media, the question is always, doing all this work, I'm putting in all these hours, what am I getting? Where's my growth? How can I track my efforts? Instagram makes it very easy, actually. You don't even need to sign up for a platform like Sprout, even though they have incredible analytics. You can go deeper, but Instagram already, just from having a business profile, you have access to these insights in your dashboard. So you have access to insights about your audience, so demographics, so gender, age, when they log on, what days, what times, but also about specific posts. So how each piece of content is performing. So I would recommend, and this can be a weekly kind of date with your analytics dashboard, carve out 10 to 15 minutes, look at all the content you posted that week, see what performed better than you expected, less good, and start looking for patterns. So I wouldn't recommend, let's say you did a giveaway, didn't go as you planned. That's not a reason to never ever do a giveaway again. Don't base a decision on just one post that didn't work. Look for patterns. If giveaways are consistently not, resonating with your audience, maybe it's time to phase that out. Even if you really want it to work, the data is showing that it's not resonating in that moment. So carve out that time, take a look at all your content, look for patterns, and think about if you need to make any updates for the following weeks. Your content strategy should be very flexible. I think it's great to plan in advance and have all your content for the month, but also keep it flexible. If something's not working, it's okay. No hard feelings. Take it out, swap it out, try it a different day, different time. So a little example of what it looks like, what it should look like in your dashboard. And then on the next slide, I'm going to go into specific posts. So these are the insights you get from one piece of content. So we're featuring Katie's podcast. She has incredible engagement, as you can see. And what I'm going to talk about here is, for a really long time, I used to work in influencer marketing. We saw the trend there was vanity metrics, likes and comments, what you could see. It turns out you can buy all of that. So that ended up not being as relevant for engagement. What you want to do, don't buy
likes. Instagram's going to figure it out, and it's going to deprioritize you in the algorithms. You want it to be organic, or if it's like a paid promotion or something, that still don't flood your feed with bot comments and bot followers. I'll get off my soapbox now.
Very, very important reminder. It's not worth the money. It's literally just a vanity metric. It looks good when someone shows up on your feed, but if they start looking through your content and they don't see the engagement, something's off. People are savvier now, and they will know the difference. So what we're looking at now is shares and saves. Saves, what's great about saves is it shows that, okay, someone's scrolling through their feed, there's all this content, your piece of content stopped them in their tracks to the point where they looked at it, that's your first impression, they saved it, and they will probably revisit it later. That's potentially 2, 3, 4 more impressions. So that content is saved in their little archive folder, and it's there to be revisited. Next, shares. This is the word of mouth that we keep talking about. So your content stopped them in their tracks, and either they were like, this is so cool, I need to share it with all these people, or I know someone who would love to see this specifically. It's word of mouth. It means your content is getting spread out, and it means it's potentially getting in front of a new follower, someone bringing in their engagement and their interest. So these are the two metrics. Keep an eye out for. There's no golden rule for type of content that will generate more saves and shares, but I would say something that we see is quote assets, whether it's animated or still, tend to get a lot of saves because people save them for inspiration and motivation. And then also giveaways tend to get shares as well because people want their friends to join but again, not a golden rule. Play around with it and see what works with your audience.
2 or 3 months, you'll be able to identify real easily, oh, this is really resonating with my followers. Just an example, like I said, I have a history podcast, and there's this one woman from history, Anne Boleyn, that anytime I post something about her, gets shared and saved like crazy. So I make sure every year on her birthday to reshare episodes. So just because I know my followers are going to share that with their friends. Maybe in the last year, they've made a new friend who's like, oh, you would love this podcast. So These are great tips. And I love, love, love the tip that your vanity metrics aren't everything.
Forget about them.
All right, so I am going to talk about paid promotions. Before I get into it, I do want to say I think it's cool to play around with paid promotions, but there are a lot of content creators that will say that it doesn't necessarily correlate. Paid social media promotions don't necessarily correlate with more listens. And I don't think that's a true statement across the board, but I do kind of wanted to give that disclaimer before that. I'm not saying you have to go and do paid promotions, but if you want to, here are some tips on it. So there are two kinds of ways to pay for promotions on Instagram. The first is boosting a post. What is boosting a post? It is quick. It takes you like 1 minute. You can do it from within your app on your phone, sitting on your couch. You just go and find a post and hit the blue button, boost this post. And then you can go in and choose some very basic demographics like location and age and how much you want to spend and how long you want it to run. This is also really good for if you have a post that's been up for a couple of days or a week already and you realize it's performing well. Let's get that in front of a few more eyes. And if you have it in your budget just for a couple of dollars here and there, it's not a bad method. On the other hand, it is incredibly limited compared to the next way we're going to talk about. And typically it's only for in-app engagement. Like we were saying, posts, you can't put a link in your post. You can only be like, go to my link in bio. And when you boost a post, it's no different. It can't take you out of the app and bring you straight to your podcast. So it has its limitations, but if you have the budget and you were thinking about it, I would suggest try it and see if you get any bumps and listens or whatever your goal is. Maybe you're trying to boost a post about your merch, or you're trying to boost a post about your newsletter. See if what you put into that gets any return on investment, basically. And then we have running ads. Running ads is much more in depth. You can do A/B testing. You can do a carousel of a few different episodes. You can have links in them. They can easily navigate outside of the app. I think that's the best thing about ads. We've probably all seen it. I follow this jewelry designer on Instagram. She runs ads all the time, and you can just click on it and it'll bring you to her store on Etsy. Super easy. You can do the same with your podcast episodes. Again, use Podfollow or Chartable Smart Links so that your users can go straight to their most likely podcasting app. On the other hand, running these ads are kind of complicated. You can't do it from within your app. You can't do it on your phone. You have to go to your Facebook business site. So you have to get on your laptop or your desktop or whatever and go to your Facebook business site. And if this is your first time running one, you might not even have that set up yet. There is a learning curve and you do need to spend a little bit more of a budget. But if you've already tested boosting a few posts and whatever your goal is met, you might want to consider running an ad. So that would be my advice if you were thinking about paid promotions. Think about boosting a post and set yourself a very realistic goal. Like, let's say you want that post to get your normal post gets shared 3 times on average. You want your post to get shared 5 times. Boost the post. And if you keep meeting that very realistic goal, I think an ad might be worth it if you have the budget. But if you aren't quite meeting those goals, then maybe. For me, I've only run one ad, and it took me so much time to do it. And I spent so much time then chasing the metrics to see if my goals were being made, that for me, I was like, I could be using this time to engage with my followers instead. So for me specifically, it wasn't right, though I do boost most of our posts for new episodes. So that is my 2 cents. Do with it what you will, but those are the ways to promote paid promotions or to run paid promotions on Instagram. I see we have a couple of questions over in the comments. Let's see. Any tips on how to market a multifaceted podcast? Something specifically on beauty or history or more experts? Multifaceted. I think keep it to one feed if you're the same creator, honestly, but just expand your content pillars, if that makes sense. And somebody else asked how often to post. I think Instagram is, especially if you're first trying to gain some followers, I mean, at least 3 times a week. But if you can commit to 5 times a week, that's awesome too. And there are scheduling tools that you can use to post on your behalf, so you're not constantly posting on your phone. Yeah, and somebody says they tried the boosting promotions and it wasn't really successful. It might not be. That's why I say when you do it, go in with some goals, if that makes sense. Oh, somebody asked some scheduling apps. We already talked about Later. I use Planoly. There's Hootsuite, Buffer, Sprout. Most of these do have a free one too. I pay for mine just because I like the analytics in it, because I like to see what my engagement rate is, which you can do for free just going into your app, but math. So they do the math for me. So yeah, and if you download the handout, we're going to have a bunch of links to these on the next slide as well. I was told that if you pay to boost your post on IG, then the algorithm affected going forward in the future to encourage you to keep boosting. That makes sense. I haven't experienced that in my own Instagram journey, but that does make sense. Definitely, if you don't already have a high engagement of followers, it's going to help it to make sure that it gets into the feed of all your followers. So play around with it. I don't think for some of these things, there aren't any hard and fast rules that apply to every single person, except for the in-app features like we were talking about in stories. So play around with it. But if you don't already have that high engagement rate, maybe hang back on the boosted posts until you do. See how that affects you, yeah. I use Later. It gives you 30 posts a month on each platform for free on the free one. Yeah, they will have limitations when they're free for sure. Yeah, here, guys, if y'all have more questions, go ahead and drop them. But I just wanted to show you guys, this is in the handout that I have up there. Links to some of these tools that we discussed, links to some of the programs here within Acast. Yeah, I just think Instagram is a really great way to connect with my followers. So I'm so excited that so many of you joined us today. What's the best way to get your listeners to interact with each other? Oh, that's a fun one. Ask a question that, hey, what are your favorite, what's your favorite episode? And people comment and maybe like go into the comments and be like, oh, that was at somebody's favorite episode too. And then they can start talking to each other like that. Just off the top of my head is one.
And another thing I'm thinking of, and maybe this is a topic for another webinar if you're interested, but I actually think Facebook is an incredible place for people to, because it's like, okay, so you as a podcaster have that relationship with your followers and it's that, one-on-one, but how do you get them to connect? And that's how you create a very tight community. I think Facebook groups, honestly.
Yeah, or Discord as well, yeah.
Discord as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, let us know. But I think that is probably the best platform for.
I think my private Facebook group has about 1,200 users, but like it made me so happy. A couple of them that live in Chicago that didn't know each other before all went and saw a play together recently in the Facebook group. And I was just like, making friends in real life. This is great. We got to see the slide on the reels at some point. Okay. Maybe we can do one day all about video content for social media for podcasters. So that's great feedback. Thank you, Tommy. And Megan's seen crazy growth on TikTok. I have yet to figure out I love watching TikTok, but I have yet to figure out successful creations on TikTok. You guys should talk to, I don't know if she's still in here, but Amanda Matta that was in here earlier, she has blown up on TikTok. So we need to get her in here to tell us how to do that. Yeah, more stuff on TikToks and Reels. I would love that. Absolutely. Like I said, we had to cut out things because this ran too long. Awesome. Okay, well then I will put that on the to-do list of video content on social media for podcasters. I love it. Well, you guys were all amazing. This was a really fun event. Stick around. We have more coming up. And yeah, Adele, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Katie. This was so fun. I know we got really excited putting this together and we didn't. But hoping we can do this again soon about video content, about Facebook. There's so much there's so much out there to help grow your show.
There's so many cool growth hacks that you may not even be thinking about. Or if you are thinking about one, please let me know so that we can do a deep dive into it and come back and discuss that with you. All right. And yes, there are going to be rewatch opportunities. So I'll definitely be getting the replay to you guys. So can you send the handout with the video? I can't download it. Oh, I don't know if I can send the handout. I can try for sure. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.